So we have two different students in two different classes. We have Theo, and he took a math test. On his test, he scored an 81. The class average was a 67, and the standard deviation was an 11. Then we have Mr. X. He took a speech test. He scored a 72, so he did do better than Theo, at least with respect to the final score. And the class average, though, was higher in Mr. X's class. It was an 89, and the standard deviation was really small. It was a 4. So in this problem, we're asked for three things. We want the z-score for Theo's grade, the z-score for Mr. X's grade, and we want to know who did unusually bad. So let's work it out. So solution. So let's do part A first. Now the formula for the z-score of Theo's grade is z equal to x minus x bar, that's the sample mean, divided by the sample standard deviation. The notation we use for that is a lowercase s. That's an s, not a 5. So in this case, the average, that will be the sample mean, that's x bar. The standard deviation of the class, we'll take that to be lowercase s. And the grade, well, that must be x. So x. So all you do now is plug in the values into the formula. So x is 61. X bar is 67. And the sample standard deviation was 11. So you put this in your calculator, or you can actually do it in your head. Let's see, 61 minus 67 is negative 6. So we get negative 6 over 11. And in decimal form, it turns out that z is equal to negative 0.55. Well, my s's really do look like 5s. That's an s. S. This is a 5. So there is the z-score for Theo. So what does a z-score mean? Well, he has a negative z-score, so that means he scored below average, and that is the case, right? He scored below average. It tells you how far x is from the mean in terms of standard deviations. So he scored 0.55 standard deviations below the average. Okay, B. Let's find out the z-score for Mr. X. So again, we'll use the formula. It's x minus x bar divided by the sample standard deviation. So in this case, the x for Mr. X, and that's a capital X, is 72. The average is x bar, and the standard deviation, that will be s, so that's 4. So let's see, so x, so 72, minus x bar, that's 89, and then the sample standard deviation for his class was 4. Let's see, 72 minus 89, that's negative 17. So we have negative 17 over 4. That's negative 4 and a quarter, so negative 4.25. So that's the z-score for Mr. X. So he scored 4.25 standard deviations below the mean. So he did really bad. And that leads us to the next question. Who did unusually bad? Well, Mr. X. And the reason is, mathematically, his z-score is negative 4.25, and that's less than negative 2. So that means that his grade is unusually low. So in general, if you have a z-score smaller than negative 2 or a z-score bigger than 2, then the corresponding x value is unusual. So z-scores between negative 2 and 2 are okay, but if it's smaller than negative 2, or bigger than 2, it's unusual. I hope this video helps.